Hey there guys, I'm William from House by the Video Store, and this week I'll be talking about the 5th episode of Season 5 of The Walking Dead entitled Self-Help. Now surprisingly, this episode does not follow up the prior episode with Beth at the hospital and if she escaped or not. It jumps back in with Abraham and his group after they left the church with Rick. So they're on the road, and you get a little bit of backstory at the beginning. It shows Abraham killing a zombie in a grocery store with what looks like his family there, and then you jump back to present day. They're on the bus, and the bus crashes, and they have to fight their way out to escape. And it's later revealed, Eugene reveals to Tara that he sabotaged the bus. He didn't intend for it to crash like that and hurt everyone and catch on fire. He just wanted to slow the trip down so they don't get to Washington as quickly. And it's kind of interesting. Tara and Eugene seem to have maybe like a brother or sister relationship that goes to some weird places later, and I'll get to that in a minute. So one thing I did notice about this episode, I don't know if it was just this episode in particular, maybe it's the TV I was watching it on, or the fact that I was watching a digital version of it. The zombies, when they were stabbing them in the head and blood squirted in this episode, to me just looked really, really bad. It looked super digital and super fake. I don't know if maybe I haven't paid attention and it's always looked like that, but in this episode in particular, maybe the lighting and the setting just made it very noticeable that it was digital blood squirting out of these zombies. So they find a fire truck and try to get that ready to go, and that gives way to one of the episode's best moments when everyone is surrounded by zombies. A ton of them come out of the firehouse, I believe, or the building that the fire truck was by. The truck doesn't start and it dies, so they have to get out. Then they get surrounded by zombies. It looks like it's going to be a very brutal battle that could cost some lives, and then they start getting cut down by Eugene using the fire truck's water hose. Now, one thing to notice about this is that, at least from what I have heard from others, that in order to use the fire hose on a fire truck, the engine has to be running, because how else do you get all the pressure that you need to make the water come out of the hose? So it's kind of odd that they would have something be specifically wrong with the truck that caused it not to run, and then for Eugene to immediately use the water hose to cut down all the zombies. If you overlook that logical loophole, the actual scene was very cool and gave Eugene something to do, and it showed that he wasn't a complete and utterly useless coward. He just was more efficient when he's using fire truck equipment to fight zombies. One other thing that kind of makes me think about is the fire hose seemed to very easily cut the zombies down and to make them fall apart. And I guess it just goes along with the idea that they're rotting and decaying, and that's also why it's so easy just to walk up and poke them in the head and stab straight to their brain, because in real life it would be more difficult than that. But that also begs the question, if you can so easily cut the zombies down with the water hose and it's so easy to stab them in the head, why are their teeth and jaws still strong enough to penetrate when they bite people and infect them? I guess part of that is if the zombies weren't able to bite and infect people, they get rid of a lot of the dramatic tension. But cut to the part of the episode where Eugene reveals to everyone that he is not, in fact, a scientist who needs to get to Washington and has the knowledge of how to wipe out the zombies. He just made that up. Kind of like the doctor in the prior episode, he's somebody who's kind of a coward, because in the prior episode the doctor let another doctor die that came into the hospital so that he would be the only doctor there, and they would have to keep him alive and keep him around. Eugene was somebody who didn't think that anyone would find enough value in him to keep him alive, and he obviously couldn't keep himself alive, so he came up with the story about Washington, about all the different, that's why I kept referring to anything as classified, not giving people details. Earlier in the episode, somebody's asking him about the rockets or what the plan would be, and he keeps saying it's classified. And it doesn't make a lot of sense for it to be classified at that point, because there's probably, realistically, only thousands of people left in the world who aren't infected and who are safe, maybe millions across the entire globe. So it doesn't make a lot of sense to worry about letting secrets leak out. But he tells everyone that he is in fact a fraud, and Abraham beats him nearly to death. And that is after they're about to go into a town that is just completely infested with zombies to the point that they can't go through. Even though the fire truck that they had broke down, it would be, even if it was working, it would be almost impossible to go through this town and make it out the other end alive. And that was when Eugene decided to reveal the truth about him. Abraham snapped. So it'll be interesting to see in the following episodes. So I would assume that Eugene lived. At the end, it looked kind of iffy, but I would assume he's alive. But Eugene was the reason for Abraham to live, because after he lost his family, Eugene was the next mission that he could possibly succeed with and something to keep him occupied. Now that he knows that that's fake, is he just going to go off the deep end and do something crazy? Or is he going to get refocused? Are they still going to go to Washington? It doesn't make a lot of sense to continue to go there now that they know that Eugene really can't do anything. So we'll just have to see where those story threads go, because they just kind of left it without you knowing too much of what's going on. And then the fact that these episodes have been going the way they have, I assume that we will not get a continuation to the Abraham-Eugene storyline in the next episode. So it'll be interesting to see what everything happens. I've heard a lot of people speculate that the season will likely end with the big event at the hospital, which makes sense because there's really not a lot of other things that are giving the story forward momentum they could go towards, because you haven't really seen any new villains or new locations. So I do think this mid-season finale will probably end at the hospital, converging the storylines. Whether or not Abraham, Eugene, and that group end back up with Rick and the main crew is yet to be seen. They'll probably stay separate for a while, I would assume. But I think that the mid-season finale will probably end at the hospital. And we'll have to see what happens to Eugene now that everybody knows his secret. Will they let him die, leave him behind? Will everybody ignore him? Oh, and I forgot to go to the really creepy part of the episode where he was watching Abraham and Rosita go at it. And Tara caught him, and he just said it was a victimless crime. I don't know that I would qualify a man with a mullet watching someone have intercourse as a victimless crime. I just call it creepy grossness. But that was, so that and cutting all the zombies down with the fire hose were kind of Eugene's highlights for the episode before he let everybody know he's a coward. So this episode, it wasn't a super great action-packed episode, but I thought it moved the story along, and it answered some questions that people had had for a while about whether or not Eugene was legit. They went ahead and answered that question. So the season has continued its pace of just answering a lot of questions and moving things along, or at least compared to last episode. So if you agree with anything I said or had anything to discuss, let us know in the comments or on HouseWitheVideoStore.com. I'll see you next time.